Hello, today we visit r/AskReddit to ask Redditors who grew up in small towns, what was the incident? Make sure to comment your opinions about the topics on hand or on the new video format down below. With that, sit back and enjoy. The incident involved sheep. A flock of sheep kept on the town green migrated through a broken fence into the adjacent cemetery. The sheep became known as the landscapers because they did a better job of manicuring the cemetery grounds than the maintenance person. The dead will definitely never wake up now that they have all that sheep to count. Way more wholesome than I thought it would be once you mentioned sheep. My wife raises sheep, and by default, I raise sheep. I read the first sentence and thought, well, here we go. Guy in my high school knocked up the daughter of the local fitness center owner. The owner offered him a car to leave his daughter alone and not be a part of the baby's life. He accepted the offer and took the car. Once she gave birth, they ran away together in the car. The fitness center owner found them, torched the car, and threatened to kill the guy. They fought and the baby daddy won. This apparently garnered some respect from both men, and now everyone seems like a happy family. That was a wild ride. So this happened a couple years before I went there, but this was the talk of my high school for like half a decade, and half the town knew folks involved, so it just became a part of the town lore. There was a special needs kid who was loved by our school and our community. He was always smiling and happy, and while only ever really talkative when it was about his own interests, you couldn't help but like the guy and get along with him. Even bullies were kind to the kid, and while some people avoided him, no one was ever rude or dismissive towards him. Just a genuinely good kid who was liked by all, cause you couldn't help but like him. He got beaten up by a bully who came to our school from the really ducked up Last Chancer school a few suburbs over. Word got out when someone saw him in the infirmary bruised to the nines and crying. Dumbass bully took credit but really didn't need to, since there were witnesses and word got around pretty quickly. A dozen seniors cornered him after school when the bully was walking home and took turns beating the shit out of them. Apparently they almost killed him. Never saw him again after that, so I've no idea what happened. I just know he got hospitalized for ages. No one was willing to rat them out, and the teachers and overworked cops didn't really seem too fussed in finding out who got rid of the bully. The friendly kid came back a few weeks later all healed up, and everything continued as normal. Pastor's son got caught jerking it to gay porn in the walk-in freezer at the Pizza Hut. He did not work at that Pizza Hut. It was hushed up, but the former sheriff of my hometown stole people's lawnmowers and sold them for scrap for close to a decade. Weird place. Sheriff in my town was divorced twice, married 3 times. To the same woman. My grandfather was a sheriff for 10 years, he also married and divorced my grandmother 3 times. I dare not ask where you live. It started with the kids from down the road playing my neighbor's haystack. My neighbor was, unfortunately, batshit crazy. So he put bear traps in his haystack. The kids found the bear traps, luckily without getting caught in one, and ran home to tell their dad. Dad comes over with a baseball bat, proceeds to beat the crap out of the bear traps. Few days later, my neighbor spots the kid's dad driving by in his pickup truck, so jumps into his own truck and follows him. They wound up in the nearby wildlife preserve, shooting at each other's trucks with hunting rifles. Luckily they didn't hit each other, just the trucks. That finally caught official attention and they ended up in front of a judge. They both got scolded, neighbor for owning old-style illegal bear traps and kid's dad for damaging property. We had a similar incident on my street. Kids like to ice skate on guy's lake. Guy threatens kids with gun. Kids go tell dad. Dad drive-by shoots crazy guy. Crazy guy lives but had PTSD and injuries to his legs, groin and lower body. No cops got involved. Small town in Missouri. Bianca Piper, it was 2005, supposedly she went for a walk after a fight with her mom and was never seen again. I was a junior in high school and skipped school that day. My friends and I freaked when we saw cop cars and helicopters out everywhere. Thought they were looking for us. Everyone here has always said her mother had something to do with it. Her older sister got arrested years later for a adult fun time trafficking thing in St. Louis, I think. Small town in Maryland, 2009, 11-year-old Sarah Foxwell went missing 3 days before Christmas after she was kidnapped from her house by her uncle. Her uncle was a registered adult fun time offender previously and was arrested but wouldn't say where she was. On Christmas Day, the entirety of the city went out looking for her. Literally thousands of volunteers filled the volunteer consolidation point of the local baseball stadium, the Shorebirds. They had to start turning away volunteers. I remember having dozens of people going through my backyard, and I lived like 5 miles away from where it happened. Unfortunately, they found her body during that search. And he had raped and murdered her. He admitted guilt. That piece of shit is serving 2 consecutive life sentences. The sheriff pushed for the death sentence for him, but it was not allowed. This actually brought tears to my eyes writing out. So ducked up. A light shining into the sky a couple times from out in the woods. Police went out to check it, found a man no one knew in a cabin no one knew of, loaded with guns and ammunition. When asked why he had so many, what he was doing shining a light into the sky. He was sending a beacon to the aliens because they told him to shine a light to guide them, when he had things ready for them. Yeah. The man is single-handedly going to start a war with either friendly aliens, or not so friendly aliens. Fighter pilot drew a dick in the sky. Had to do a debate on religions, but my school blocked all the non-Christian websites, so we needed the IT guy to unblock the sites. When I asked my teacher to get a IT guy, he said that we were unable to block the sites at the moment. Turns out that same day the IT guy was arrested for over 500 counts of child porn on his work computer. He ducking dragged the child porn into the computer's trash can and thought it would disappear forever. The IT guy. A little over 30 years ago, the police and fire departments played in a charity basketball game that raised funds for DARE. Shortly after the game, some of the cops that played gave short anti-drug speeches for the crowd. Early the next morning, state police came into town and arrested a lot of those cops for being part of a local drug ring. A more lighthearted one happened only 5 years ago. The town's getting ready for its annual Christmas tree lighting when the organizers noticed the wiring for the lights had been damaged. They report it to the police, who then put out a bunch of public notices about how vandalism will not be tolerated in our family-friendly town, and beefing up security around the area. It ended up being a squirrel that chewed through the wire. A 14-year-old girl was dating an 18-year-old man. The girl's parents did not approve of the relationship. The girl hatched out a plan to kill her parents. The guy was not so bright, maybe learning disability? So he went along with it. She snuck him in through her window. He shot the dad dead, shot the mom who was able to run into another room. She was gurgling blood begging for mercy, and the girl basically ordered the execution, final blow. Due to some weird law, early 90s, juries could not pursue life in prison, so had to order death penalty. Dude was executed. Girl just had to serve in juvie until 18 and was released like nothing happened, despite being the mastermind doing everything but pull the trigger. I was a visible minority at my predominantly 99% Caucasian high school. Post 9/11 someone was calling bomb threats into the high school. We were evacuated to the local hockey arena from which detectives with the vice principal, a teacher, and secretary pointed me out in the crowd and asked me to come with them. Got questioned in the vice principal's office, who was the former librarian mind you, so he was always on a power trip sitting all smug in his chair with his hands always like this. Anyways, I wasn't their guy. I proceeded to order 40 large pizzas to the school from a payphone with the nastiest ingredients and all on behalf of that cocksucker. After the pizzas arrived there were 3 separate intercom announcements school-wide about, "Whoever ordered these pizzas, we demand you come to principal's office now." Bah ha ha ha. Duck that guy. I live in a little town next to the sea. One time during his morning swim a guy found a body on the bottom of the sea a few meters deep, with weights attached to him. For weeks we didn't know if it was murder or suicide, pretty scary. Turns out it was suicide. When I was in high school, early 2000s, one of the elementary school lunch ladies who also ran a babysitting business had a child die in their care. While this was eventually ruled as a tragic case of SIDS, it opened up a decade-old investigation into a previous death of another child in her care. This turned into a murder investigation and she was convicted and sentenced to 20 years for pushing the kid down the stairs. The victim was the brother of a student a grade below me. The lunch lady's daughter was in the same grade. They were friends until all this blew up. The town has about 2,500 people in it and everyone knows everyone else's business. A lot of my classmates were babysat by this woman at one point or another. And, again, we all knew her because she served us meals in elementary school and her kids were in our classes. It was a wild time. There was an A&E documentary about it too. She's finished her prison sentence now, but I'm not sure if she moved back to town or not. I haven't lived there in years and barely keep up with hometown gossip. We had a super duper senior. He was mentally slow and maybe 20 years old. He was pretty beloved at the school actually. One day he stole his mom's car and drove it through the glass of the front doors of the school. Luckily not on a school day, nobody was hurt or arrested or anything, but it was widely talked about. Also, a girl was sleeping with a boy in her class and her dad caught them having adult fun time. The guy jumped out the second-story window naked. He fell into the car and the windshield wiper blades caught his balls on the way down and he had to get one testicle removed. I knew this to be true because I knew everyone including the dad, daughter and the guy it happened to. Depends on what incident you want. People were convinced the high school was cursed because no less than 4 kids every year died. I'm talking a classes of maybe 40 each year losing about 4 to 8 kids for various reasons. Most of my graduating class ended up getting caught drinking in class the one day I didn't show up. The field party where some dumbass was smoking behind a dried hay and caught the whole vales on fire. And the soccer coach murdered his girlfriend and tried to kill her 2 children, but thanks to lockdown training they knew to play dead until he left. The subsequent trial, and then the kids coming back to school. And half the town, including at one point the sheriff, had a heroin problem. We had this guy who was a survivalist type before it became a thing. He was able to purchase the bubonic plague vials by pretending to be a research scientist, and proceeded to infect a bunch of rats with plague. He wanted to study what medicine works best against plague rats. Luckily the FBI caught up to him, and Plague Man was stopped before any plague rats escaped. The fun part is if he did this today, he'd probably be considered a hero to some. I actually met him a few times before he got arrested. I thought he was a priest of some sort because he was always in all black, and had a huge beard. Thank you for watching all the way until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your opinions about the topics on hand or on the new video format down below. Click the video above if you want to continue to watch my content. Until next time.